on the, it's called The Goods. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'm here with a local Philadelphia ceramic artist who I've been only aware of, but definitely a fan of now for a few months. Ceramic arts are really interesting. I don't want to call it a thriving scene in Philadelphia. I feel like that's...
It's bumping.
It's bumping? Okay, that's a good adjective.
I mean, it's like tiny. It's a small community.
But it's very rich, I feel like. With not, monetarily rich, but...
Yeah.
So, welcome to the podcast, Jarmel Reitz. Did I say your last name right?
That right, yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's pretty rare.
You said it's pretty rare?
That people just say it right, yeah.
So I cheated because I obviously have looked up every piece of content on the internet about you the last week. But also my best friend in the world, his name is Drew Tates. His last name is spelled T-E-T-Z. So when I first saw it, I was like, Reitz?
Yeah,
awesome.
Reitz is pretty Jarmel Reitz is a... I'm like, okay. I don't correct everyone.
Yeah, that was my next question. How did you kind of come up with the acute accent marker? What is there like a history from that? Or
yeah, totally. I
first and foremost, is that what it's called? It's an acute accent
Jarmel
marker?
by Jarmel.
Well, no, the actual little apostrophe mark. Do you know what that's called? When I looked it up, it's just called acute for some reason. Yeah. But I have no fucking idea if that's really what it.
When it comes to like actual terms and like knowing things like that, I'm probably wrong.
It's fine though, but I always like sprucing things up like that for no reason. You know
totally.
What I mean?
Yeah.
And it reminds me of like fashion houses or like smaller brands now that have really fancy names, but it's not like. I mean, I think your art is very fancy and what you make is very fancy, but the shit that other people put out, it's just kind of like a T-shirt or whatever, and then they're like, check it out, it's called Bianca Chandon.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is sick, but like, why the fuck is it? Who is Bianca? Like, why is it? No reason. It just sounds dope. Like, oh, sick. So what was the reason behind that?
So that did come when I was first, I'm going to think of a business name and it's not going to just be my name. And I was coming up with all these names. I had this whole list. And I also was just like kind of hating on how people have two names. It's always like dill and pickle, feather and quill.
I think, that's a very like white bread pure one.
Yeah, and it was just
shit.
So I went into it was like the Reanimator on Master Street was like pretty new, just a few months, and I ran in there and my friend Eric Slick was there, and I started talking to him about it, and I showed him the list, and then he was just like, "You got to use your name."
How many other names did you have?
Oh, man, I had like 10. I was like...
Namesake names are always kind of hard because I feel like a lot of businesses that go by namesake names set themselves up for failure.
They
how the fuck are you supposed to
too.
branch off and market from?
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they were all pretty whack. But Eric was like, you need to use... I can't remember.
I'm sorry.
But it was because this was like years ago,
right.
But I do remember I had one that was like about the moon. It was like something moon, but it was one word. I don't know. It wasn't honeymoon, but it was like...
Something not as you is what this current
absolutely.
Is. Yeah. Literally.
And then, but Eric was kind of just like, you call it Jarmel. And then it kind of, from that and just riffing back and forth, it came to be Jarmel by Jarmel, which is a play on the two name thing. And, in what I think is like a really funny way. But it's also funny because a lot of people are just like Jarmel by Jarmel. Or I guess if you know me, you call it Jarmel by Jarmel. I usually will call it Jarmel by Jarmel just in talking, but
I like the enunciation.
Yeah, I think it is really funny.
It is. It's cool because like people really wonder, you know what I mean? But
it makes it seem a little fancier than me. Yeah, Jarmel.
Right. It's cool that it actually has that background.
Yeah.
Shit, I had a question like kind of associated with that, but. Yeah, so I guess still in the like vein of flipping things, because you mentioned that you kind of like to show more vicious animals in contrasting ways, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they got a bad rep.
But you're putting them on like really cute little pots and things that have like a fucking succulent in them or something that's not vicious at all. So
yeah, you like think about a jaguar looking real cute, hopping over a rainbow, but then you think about their force and their bite. It's like the strongest bite than any other animal. Just like tearing up, just killing in a second.
Have you like always done that sort of thing, or do you kind of know what the root reason for doing that flip is? Because I personally love when artists use strong contrast in their work, and I feel like that's such a not way of, you've never used it in that way. You've never said it's like the contrast of it, but as soon as you were talking about it, I was like, damn, that's such a strict contrast, and I love where that goes. So.
Yeah, I think it did happen for like a while where it's just like, I always loved drawing animals and stuff, and you're just like, all right, well, this alligator would look real cute with a t-shirt on, holding a balloon. And then you draw those. That's like something I've drawn actually like a few times. And yeah, and I had a phase where I drew like a ton of dinosaurs, but like always wanted them to be a little cute.
Because they're never exactly portrayed that way unless it's in like a television show or something. Totally. And it's not, not serious portrayal. So
but they all animals have their soft side, and I just try to bring that out.
That's dope. So what was it like growing up on the East Coast? Because I grew up in Delaware, and I feel like, I don't want to say like similar situations, but you use the terminology rich, poor. And I feel like that's like such a strong, like, you don't really realize that till you're older. You go through that weird period when you're like 15 to 20 and you're like, damn, we were poor as shit. And then you get older and you're like, my parents were actually really resourceful and we never like starved or anything. Yeah. And you probably had friends who really were, food insecurity, and that thing played into it. So.
Yeah, so I had a little bit of that, but my parents did great for not having
the resources
much. Or just resources. And it is funny. I think that, like, it maybe took me a little longer to realize that, like, oh, I'm not even really in the middle class.
When you look at the analytics for everything, you're like, damn, I thought I was middle class, but I'm really not.
So funny, and, like, in my, like, early 20s, when I, like, kind of started to, like, meet people who, like, moved here, weren't from here, even as close as, like, the suburbs and Pennsylvania outside of Philly.
Oh yeah.
And just like the way they talk is, and and it's also funny to just live your life thinking that you talk normal or just like everyone else, and then like you're in your 20s and you realize like that you don't sound the same.
Like accent wise?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Like,
I love your accent, by the way. I have that
you.
like marked on my list. And it's funny because my girlfriend and I were listening to your podcast, and I was like, I'm gonna bring that up, and she's like, I don't hear her accent. She's from Jersey too, and I'm like, it's because you all sound alike. But
yeah, and it's funny. It's like people they just repeat things after you, and I remember being like, it's like really weird? Like not really understanding her. And it is funny, or just like the fact that I was an adult when I was like, oh, use isn't a word? Like, that's crazy. I need proof.
What word?
Use.
Use?
Just like pluralized you.
Oh, use.
It's like, they're like, it's not actually a word.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going to call that bullshit. That is a word that I've been using my whole life. It's about time it entered the dictionary.
Yeah, East Coast slang is a very interesting thing. I went to the Bay Area for the first time when I was 16, and I came back, and I was just like, damn, everything is hella cool now. Like, I use the word hella so much, and now that I'm older, I'm like, damn, the East Coast has so much dope, like, language that has now entered, like, the cultural vernacular. And like, John... So much stuff is, uniquely, not even just Philadelphia, but like East
John's
Coast,
another word I thought.
And specifically Mid-Atlantic region, I feel like strongly. And like, I don't know, it's such a New York thing now, John, I feel like.
Yeah, it's got, the East Coast definitely has, just like a ton of just as you go down, the accents are just so wild and so varied. And, and then you get out to the Midwest and the West and is a little more whitewashed. They're like, the way that we talk is proper, and it's like the one true way to talk. And
I've never experienced that before. That's funny.
The first time I experienced it like pretty hard was this person I was dating who's from the Bay Area, who's like mom. As soon as I met her, she was just like, oh yeah, I hear that Philly accent, and then just started talking about like the English, these like little like slights where it's just like talking about the English language and just how it's like she doesn't like when people don't use it properly or like speak it properly. Yeah, I hear that stuff all the time, and it's like I used to care a lot about it, when I did up my vocabulary, and I like worked on like maybe like toning it down a little bit, because it's just at the time I was just less. I don't know. I was like a little more insecure about it and like feeling like I didn't really fit in and like kind of wanted to fit in a little more. And like it was, or just be accepted. You want to be accepted more. And also, you know, when you like hit the Midwest and stuff, and I talked a lot faster and it was like just a little stronger and like people can't really understand you. And you're just like, you know, when I did live out in California for a few years when I came back, you know, my dad's just like, what is wrong with you? Why do you sound like you're talking so slow?
Yeah, we use a lot of like conjured words on the East Coast and like everything. I do the same thing and people will be like, what the hell are you saying?
Yeah.
And, what was your dad saying though?
I remember this time. I was in Santa Cruz and I asked somebody about going to Wawa for a hoagie and the way that everyone, like, that's the thing. Like, I just, you know, getting out of my bubble, I didn't understand that, like, everyone didn't talk exactly like me.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's not like Santa Cruz is that different of a place. Like, growing up on the East Coast, I'm sure you went to beach towns all the time, and, like, I've, weirdly enough, spent a lot of time in Santa Cruz.
Yeah, I went down the shore, which meant Wildwood, like, we would camp in Avalon. Yeah. Ocean City a little bit, but not so much. That's even a little too, like, upscale for, like, where I come from. Like, so Wildwood was like, you know, and Atlantic City, like that's where I kind of spent a little more of my time.
Word. Yeah.
That Atlantic City boardwalk was wild as a kid. Yeah.
It's a good thing to experience though as a kid.
And I
mean, like going, I guess, would you consider yourself a latchkey kid?
I don't even know what that means. Maybe.
So like if you come home from school, no one's like there to like check on. You got a key to like open up your door.
Oh, okay, yeah, that door was not locked.
So I don't even know what
absolutely
the unlocked latchkey kid. But I feel like when you, and again harping on like what your parents do to help you raise you and like growing up in those situations, it definitely gives you leeway to like be influenced by other things or like just get cooler because, you know, when you're 13 or 14 and like your friends are finally discovering certain types of music or whatever, and you're like, I've been on that for like 4 years because I have like this one relative that puts me onto all the cool shit or whatever. So it's like I envied parents that had, I envied friends that had parents that were more like hawk-eyed parents that were like, oh, we got to make sure that your homework is done and you're home or who you hanging out with.
Yeah.
But then as I got older, I'm like, I never would be in the position I'm in if my parents didn't really give a shit at times.
Absolutely.
And they always gave a shit, but you know what I mean? That like level of they care, but you don't care. So like,
you didn't have to fail. And if you failed, it was like you didn't really get in trouble.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, you still love these people and you don't want to disappoint them. So like, you just do what you have to get through.
There's a weird dissonance growing up in that way because your parents are just kind of like you said, like figuring out their own lives and trying to survive in their own ways.
Totally.
And it's like when you turn like 15 or 16 and you're like, shit, what am I supposed to do now? Or like, you realize kids in other countries without like parental supervision like die or join like Somalian rebel soldier armies. And it's like you realize why these things happen in different cities. And it's like, I don't know. So anyway. Who in your life, I guess, kind of put you onto that cooler shit at a younger age? Did you have like school friends that were into cooler things, or like?
I feel like, well, yeah, I like to think that the people that I hung out with were onto the cool stuff that like.
Did you have like older friends when you were younger?
I had some older friends.
Yeah, that definitely helped.
Totally.
I was the same way.
Yeah, and I mean, there was always like just older kids hanging around at my house all the time, and.
Okay.
My mom really loved music, so like music was a big part of my childhood.
That's dope.
Yeah, there was like bands that played at my house and stuff, which is like good, and it's also there's like a downside to having that kind of experience as a child. Yeah. But it was like a lot of fun. So I was exposed to like, you know, a ton of like older rock and stuff like that. I mean, I remember listening to like those Cheech and Chong records as like a young kid. Just, you know, I was like pretty young, just like, okay, so like I'll be ready to smoke weed at, you know, 13 or 14. Yeah. I'm prepared.
Yeah.
And then outside of that, like I think that there was like a lot of kids I was hanging out with that were like really into like heavy metal, and I like really tried to like, you know, I like dove in a couple pools like trying to figure out like who am I and like where is this expression connecting with me? And, you know, I like dyed my hair and spiked it. I was like, I'm fucking wearing bullhead jeans. Fuck Jenko. Like, I got this shit. And
I shop on this side of PacSun, okay?
Yeah.
I'll go over there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's dope though, and I think kids still do that, but now with the internet, it's easier for them to dip into pots. And when we were kids, I mean,
Totally.
we're a few years apart, but it's like, I think the lines weren't as blurred. It's like you were definitely like, oh, you're into like the new metal shit, that's cool. Or you're like, oh, you're into these other kinds of metal. Or like, oh, you're into punk or you're into hip hop. Like,
rap was very consistent forever.
That's awesome.
Yeah, my brother loved rap, and I just feel like it was like also just always played like in the neighborhood I grew up in.
Yeah, it's hard to escape when you grow up in certain neighborhoods.
Totally.
Which is cool. I grew up in the same kind of environment where it's like I didn't love it at first, then eventually it's like you realize what's like appealing
You're
about
like, this
it.
is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I did always love it. I tried to fight it. I always went back to it though. It's just like has definitely been the main consistent thing of music I've listened to.
Did you have friends that were like, this is whack, you shouldn't listen to that, and that's why you shied away from it, or just is there a reason behind it?
No, I think that I just wanted to, I don't know, maybe I just had like, I feel like when I would just like go to these shows with some friends and like listen to heavy metal, and I'd be like fucking like mosh pitting and shit. And then I just would like feel this, like I was just releasing this stuff that, you know, at that time, it's just like I didn't know how to release in other ways.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think as far as like, I don't know, I guess just feeling a little different inside. It's like I never really didn't like fully fit in with where I come from, and like not the way of any class thing, but just like, I mean, I didn't fit in in this female bubble. I didn't fit in with the male bubble. It was like kind of, I don't know. So I think I was always trying to like take on and touch stuff that like, I don't know, just allowed me to like feel something until I basically just kept little bits and pieces of it and ditched the rest of it. The rap though was like pretty tight. I mean, even on my bus ride to school, there was like always freestyling in the back, which was like really tight. And then my brother and like all his friends like always had like freestyle circles, which was really funny.
Where did you grow up in New Jersey again?
So I grew up in like Williamstown. When you go over the bridge,
It's like South Jersey, right?
South Jersey. It's like right over the bridge.
Yeah.
Off the Black Horse Pike.
I work at like a summer camp. I do a yo-yo program at a summer camp in
Sick.
Williamstown. Yeah. So.
Tight. Hospitality Creek.
Okay. No,
That's the only one I know that exists.
It's called
I think.
Camp Tall Pines.
Whoa, I don't even know about that. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they're new, but
Yeah, it's pretty tight. I mean, there's just like a little lake that I grew up near.
That's dope. It
Yeah.
seems like an interesting town, but it's very similar to every other East Coast town where it's like there's stuff going on, but it's like there's a Marshalls and a Ross and all three
That
major
stuff
fast
was
food
not
chains.
there until
No?
recently. Yeah.
Oh, shit. Word.
Which was pretty tight. It was like, I guess in the grand scheme of that, fairly rural. And until the past 10 years, it didn't have a Walmart. Like now it's got a Walmart and an Applebee's, but it was pretty wooded. It had some lakes. And there was like not much. That's, you know, why we spent so much time in Philly. There was nothing.
Oh, yeah.
There.
When I was a kid, Philadelphia was like my dad's a cop in Wilmington and he's a pilot, but like it was so funny because it was like such an intimidating place to my whole family, and now that I'm older and live here, it's like who the fuck ever, like I get it, but it's no different than any other big city, you know what I mean? And it's just hysterical because when I was younger, it was weirdly intimidating for everyone, and I'm like, damn, I wish I would have been able to be exposed to a lot of this earlier instead.
Yeah. The first place you'd be able to go for those kind of like big spots is Washington Township.
Okay.
That's like where all that shit was at.
It's weird how South Jersey is so spread out like that. And not just spread out, but like nothing is happening down there. Like it's just strip mall and then fucking farms and corn farms and shit like that. That's dope about your brother. My brother and I kind of got into those things at the same time and like had older friends. So it's like those older friends are such a crucial influence in like earlier in your life, especially like, you know, your parents, like you were fortunate enough to have like cool influences there, but like those older
that was pretty
friends,
tight. I also when I was like pretty young, I dated someone like 7 years older than me, and they exposed me to like a bunch of stuff. And then I dumped them.
Damn, that's balling out of control.
It's fucking over.
I don't care if you're 23.
Yeah. They were like, I don't want to. I'm like, get.
I don't want to get out of here. Just get. I dated someone a lot older than me when I was younger too, but they were like in art school, so I was like, they were really conceited and stupid, and they were just like studying slides about art history all the time, and I'm like, this is what being an artist is. It's whack as fuck. Like, I never want to do this. So yeah, I was 16 and she was 22. That's about the same age difference that you were talking about? Yeah, but it's interesting. Yeah, it puts you in like a weird headspace as a kid because you're like, this is cool.
He
and
knew
dope.
a lot about music and just so much stuff. I like ate that shit up. He was like from outside of Chicago and
he's from a cool place too. Mine was from outside of Des Moines.
Yeah,
in Iowa. That's hysterical. But that stuff, you're so easily impressionable at that age, and it's just more belonging. You know what I mean? You're looking for someone else to like be into cool shit that you're into, and then put you on to more cool shit. And I don't know.
Trying to find your people.
Yeah. So speaking of people, you call your grandparents Mom and Pop, which I do too, or maybe not Mom, but just Pop, right?
Mom and Pop.
Mom and Pop. Okay, yeah. Is that an Italian thing, or where does that come from? I have no
idea. So I guess I'm not sure. My mom, who is Italian, thinks. I remember when she found it, she was like, I said something about my other mom, and she was like,
she's not your mama.
You call her mom too?
Yeah, they get real offended.
And I remember being like, oh my God,
I'm sorry.
Should have never brought it up. But and it just was, I don't know what happened. My mom is from South Philly, and my other mom, she's been gone for like 5 years now, but she's from Kensington, 3rd and Diamond.
Jesus.
And and so I'm not sure exactly where that comes from, but it does, I guess, seems pretty Philly.
Okay.
In that.
Yeah, none of my family's from Philly. They're all from like.
None of them.
No, I have actually like one like second aunt or something that just died a few years ago that lived on Walnut over like she lived like literally 1.5 miles from me, but then died like 6 months after I moved to the city. It was kind of funny. Wow. Not funny, but you know what it's like. Oh, fucking timing. This sucks.
You're like, we were finally close.
Yeah,
we were finally gonna have a relationship.
Finally. I thought one interesting thing you talked about was like how you had some teachers who are really influential to you in a positive way, and no matter like how much you fuck up or like you kind of when you're a kid you even if you don't have oppositional defiance disorder, if you're like in that mind state of just being negative, anyone who tries to do something positive for you, it's like fuck that person, I don't really care. Maybe if you don't say fuck that person, you're like you don't feel the need to like really please them. But then also vice versa, those same teachers that like really didn't give a shit about you, and now that like you're actually doing what you want to do, and you're like, damn, I know that you're still miserable. Like I know that your life sucks. Like,
totally. I think some of those teachers, like when I think about Miss Ash, my one art teacher, right? Like when I think about her, like at the time when all of that, like I can look back on that and like truly reflect. Like at the time, I didn't understand
what she was trying to do.
So much what was happening, or like why I didn't get any of her attention. Like, so as an adult and just like a person who also understands a lot more than from the world I come from. Yeah. You know, it is like a really sad, messed up thing. And even with Mr. Van Duzen, was my English teacher in high school, who I think had the biggest pull on my soul.
That's awesome.
And and I didn't even understand how much he had impacted my life. I just cared about him in a different way because of the energy that he gave me, allowed me to like be in class and be a different way to please him rather than doing it for myself. Yeah. Even though now I'm like really grateful it happened. I think that's like the thing about it too, where it's just like kids don't really have the complexity to understand your point of anything. No. They have not experienced anything to get it, you know? So it's just like, and I think in that moment where it's just like he was explaining things to me out in the hallway that I didn't care about or understand, but like he's still like the energy and just the love just really resonated well with me. And I think that's like the thing with Miss Ash is like I got this like really cold, you know, just really unpleasant, like even when I would seek out help, like I would get help from her, but it would just be like.
Yeah, because you're actually passionate about art, and it's
Absolutely.
like you gave a shit. And
yeah, and if she would have gave me like a little more love or just like any of that, like, and I think that's the stuff that's really going to make a difference in a kid's life.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's just like, lecture kids a little bit, but like once you get to a certain point, like they're good at ignoring you. So like, go vent somewhere else. Work it out with your therapist, not with this fucking child who just like, you're just causing more separation between yourself, you know, and you're also teaching them how to do that.
Yeah. And kids are so honest and like whatever way they're going to act and they want to act, especially in school where there's not any, like teachers can encourage you or tell you how to act, but especially when you get to high school, like if they can tell you don't give a shit and you're clocking out, then they don't give a shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like a completely different world.
Totally.
But yeah, mine was also an English teacher who, like, senior year when I was really fucking up, like, cared about me and was like, just make it through. Like, why do you even care about, like, pleasing anyone or just, like...
You made it this far.
Yeah, like, it's not like anyone's going to be looking at your GPA from senior year and be like, oh, damn, you fucked this up so much. But yeah, those teachers are really important. Trying to think of where...
Yeah, they really are.
Yeah.
And they are too rare.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's because teachers are, you know, you're very passionate about education, it seems like, and I'm sure, like, you know, teachers are underpaid and, like, understaffed.
They're underpaid. Not all of them have proper resources. It is a shame.
That's, like, one of my favorite memes out of the world we're living in now, where people are like, one day we'll be able to go fund me for, like, the military instead of, like, tissues and fucking really pencils for
I feel like I do feel for teachers who, like, don't have resources
it's
and
crazy.
stuff. And, like,
it's truly crazy.
Yeah, and it is a shame because it's like, you know, with all of that being said, it still is like one of those things that like has too many, like in Philly and Camden, like there's too many racist teachers. There's like too many.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine.
So like, yeah, regardless to them not having proper resources, getting paid enough, which they should, and that should absolutely change, like doesn't really excuse some of the other stuff that's happening. Yeah. And it's just like, and to talk about that is, I'm not trying to take away from all the other garbage that every teacher has to deal with. I acknowledge it. I see.
No, I definitely agree.
Yeah, I see you trying. Some of you.
And it's, I mean, kids also aren't the easiest to work. Like, I work with kids a lot. Have you worked with more kids since you recorded that podcast a couple of years ago, or? On and off.
Yeah,
even
I
just
have.
You were saying.
No, I have. Like I
awesome.
worked with this kid last summer.
That's so awesome.
I did a thing at a place in Philly, and just in case one of their parents is watching this, I'm not going to say where I did it.
We'll talk after this because I worked at a school in Philly too, and
But this one kid, and that is always, and this is why I think I could not be a teacher all the time. Where it's just like I don't really have the patience to deal with every kid.
Yeah.
And I want to do it very... Yeah, some kids are just like... And it's not even like... I can handle a bad kid. Like, I can handle, like, a lot of stuff. But, like, a super privileged, like, know-it-all, like, hits a string for me that's a little hard to handle.
Yeah.
And then I'm just... You know,
especially when it's a kid, because it's like, yo, you don't know shit. Like, you really, and especially because you're like a privileged kid, it's like you're not gonna know shit for a long time, maybe ever. Like,
totally.
And you're never gonna have to like go through anything or struggle or, I've worked with quite a bit of schools in the city now, but like one school in particular I worked with that was in Center City. It was like a super nice school, and they like I ran a yo-yo class there, and like the kids were just awful, and I was like. Yeah, I've never had a class. Like, I've worked at schools in Philly where, like, in the morning I'll do the demonstration for a room full of kids, 300 kids, and then there'll be, like, a 20-minute break in between that and doing a workshop where I actually teach kids how to yo-yo. Someone will have gotten shot, like, 2 blocks down, and we won't be able to walk down the street to the gym. We'll have to do the workshop in the actual school. And it's like, those kids love it because, like, no one really gives a shit about them and pays attention to them, and then it's like you're giving them your undivided attention, and they genuinely care about learning and...
Yeah, they should have more resources. And it's a shame that they're thirsty for it.
It's awful, and it's crazy to see it in person where it's just, and they really genuinely appreciate it, and because even if the other kids are nice to you or whatever, or just neutral about what you're doing, they don't, the enthusiasm and like those types of other kids that don't have as many resources, they really reciprocate the passion you put out to them.
Totally.
Um,
Yeah.
But I guess speaking more on your art teacher, you kind of brought up a good point about like she might not have been in like the best place to kind of reciprocate that energy to you, to even though she isn't like a bad person, you're not saying that anything like that, but it's just like, maybe you shouldn't have been a teacher. Like,
yeah. I mean, it could always be argued that somebody's not a bad person. Somebody cares about that person usually, and that's like always there, but it's like, yeah, she was not a terrible person, but she was like, I mean, she wasn't giving off those, great vibes to at least me or.
Yeah, for sure. And you'd mentioned before about how, I forget exactly how you worded it, but like letting blame go for trauma, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
When like you experience that sort of thing. And because, the people who maybe put you there weren't prepared to handle it, kind of similar to your art teacher, you know what I mean? And it's not like that's any trauma compared to the rest of your life.
Yeah,
or
I think
like
culturally we're so defensive, and like, I think if I were to say something to her right now anyway, like, she would feel all this stuff and that would react before she even thought about what I was saying.
Yeah.
And then she just would.
I mean, yeah, it's crazy. I can't even lie to you about like the amount of times that me personally sitting there in bed and it's like, yo, fuck that one teacher that said this one thing. And like, you know what I mean? Do you think that growing up around people and like, your art teacher, your parents, whoever, friends that were victims of like their own trauma and like weren't exactly able to like help you process it, do you think that kind of helped you be in a better place that you are now? Because like someone who's been through as many things as you've been through wouldn't necessarily have bounced back, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I have some people in my life who had like some similar upbringings and we've handled it differently.
Yeah.
I mean, I even look at like my brother and sister and we handled it very different.
Yeah,
like
my brother and I too, yeah.
Yeah, and it's pretty, but I do think that like I spent a lot of time trying to like understand and learn and like connect with myself and just like reprogram. I spent a lot of time reprogramming the way I thought, just all of this stuff. You're taught to react a certain way.
Yeah, when you grow up in that kind of environment.
Totally,
and it's like fight or flight almost a lot of the time, and you grow up and you're like, the world literally doesn't work this way, and it's just a very small amount, even though statistically I'm much more like all the other people around me than I think I am. It's like the way you grew up is like way different, or you went through things that were way different. And
getting to that point too, I think, and being able to like forgive and understand also allows you to like analyze your parents or just all of these other things and therefore their parents and just like see where these like traumas kind of come from. And it is, which I guess it is like the point of 100 years of solitude, where it's just like these things just continue and continue and they're passed down and they're passed down. Yeah. But at what point do we take accountability and break those things and stop passing them down? Which is,
Yeah, I feel like that's a big thing in our generation that we're taking accountability for now, which is ironic because, like, I don't know, you look at, like, your parents' parents, and a lot of them, like, the boomers think a lot of the time that we're the ones who were, like, blessed with a lot of fortunate things or opportunities, or, like, we have it super easy or whatever, and it's, like, kind of the opposite. Or, like, I don't want to, like, everyone blames boomers for a lot of shit, and like I'm gonna change the topic in a minute, but it's just interesting, like you said, the generational like scope of it all. Let me see. So I'm really bad at listening to Philly music other than like Lil Uzi Vert.
Well, you don't like Petey Crack?
No, I love Petey Crack. When I won the World Yo-Yo Contest, I won with a Roots song, and Petey Crack has a guest verse in it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so it's funny that you mentioned Petey Crack specifically. No, I love Petey Crack.
You mean Boyz II Men? Just kidding. You're talking about the Roots and Dr. Dog.
I don't listen to Dr. Dog. There's another dog band from here, though, right? Dogs on Acid.
Oh, yeah.
Is that from here? Yeah, I listened to them. But you worked on a music video for a Philadelphia band called Japanese Breakfast, right? That I don't listen to. So
These are actually these are
from the set.
Wow, the set, yeah.
I feel indie famous right now. So what did you do on the? What was your job?
I did the production design. I did the set.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was tight. I really like doing that. I'd like to do some more stuff like that.
That's super dope. Like, how did you kind of get involved with that? Or because I don't look at like as a person who's also not to say like multi-hyphenate creatist or whatever. Like,
right.
You obviously do that, and like you do it. Thank you so much. You doing the set design for that video, I think, is a perfect example of that. So like, how did you kind of fall into that?
So it was like I know them. So they're my homies.
That's dope.
And yeah, Michelle just thought that I would be good for this. She wanted to do a space prom. And I thought I was really excited about it.
It's a really cool idea, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It was exciting. I didn't get to go to my prom or anything. So I was like, this is my prom.
That's dope.
Yeah.
That's cool. So that was even more encouragement for you to like go all out on it and like.
Yeah, it was fun. The budget was so small. And I had my brother and Andy helped me do the set, and it was great. I remember at the time too, I was just like, man, I think I'm gonna put a lot of work into this. I think like 40,000 people are gonna see this video, which is kind of how I had it marked like in my head.
And I think it's at like 3 million.
Yeah, it like blew up.
Now. And it's one of their probably most popular songs on Spotify.
Which is like so exciting. I think the song is like really great.
Yeah, I had never listened to their music before, but watching the video, I was like, wow, like this is really cool.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. And the video was, like, I feel like so many videos now are lazy and like people don't really give a shit or they just have a loose idea.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we're going to do this. And then the band is just playing and it's cool. And
it was cool. And then, I mean, the whole team was great. Adam, who filmed it, and my friend Allie, who did the costume stuff. Like, it was really great. Michelle's got a really good eye, and she's got like really great dreams and fantasies that happen in her mind, and she also just gives you the room to do what you want and like your interpretation of just whatever she
those are
said.
like the best people to work with.
Yeah.
Unless they're going to give you like complete carte blanche and you're able to do whatever, like it sucks when you work with someone who's just like they have an idea but they don't know how to communicate it to you. And then
I don't know what that is, carte blanche.
It means like our complete creative freedom. Like if someone gives you a job and then there's like, oh, I just want like a pot cart, like you have complete carte blanche. Like,
I'm gonna have to put that in my contract. It's like
my day rate and carte blanche.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, I don't know, like, how much of the actual, because you guys rented a school, I guess?
We rented a school, yeah.
That's dope.
We were supposed to have a scissor lift, and we didn't, so some things were difficult. All those stars and all of those streamers, like, all that stuff was just, like, ended up being thrown. I think I used a troll doll to, like, launch over the... I snuck one troll in the video.
I didn't see it, but...
Yeah, well, you're going to have to rewatch it and find it.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun to do.
And it got, was it I don't know the exact number, but Pitchfork picked it as one of like the best videos of that year.
Yeah, and Rolling Stone magazine.
What?
It won some awards and stuff. It was like at some festivals.
That's huge. That's so amazing.
Yeah, it felt really exciting.
Yeah.
Every time something happened, it was like exciting again.
Yeah, because you were like a huge part of that, and it won the awards for the video, which like you're an integral part of. Like obviously the music and everything is huge, but it's like you were a huge part of that. That's so amazing.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And like, how else did you feel like, I guess, about that? Because it's not often that artists, like people can say that your work is cool, but there's not like a Grammy Awards for ceramic artists. Or if there is, it's not as cool as being featured in Rolling Stone.
Where's my ceramic Grammy? So yeah, it did feel exciting to just kind of like
the dopamine hit as a creative.
Yeah, or just be like, whoa, man, I got an IMDb page. It's blank. But
every time I saw that, I was like, what the fuck is this?
It's so funny. I don't know. I don't even know how to. What do I do with that?
You got to pay to edit it.
Oh, you do? Okay. I was just like, I got this thing now. And it's really, I mean, hey, maybe I'll be able to do another music video.
That's so super dope.
I mean, I'm sure I'll never pay to edit it, but.
No, you shouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, your portfolio is already dope enough as it is. You don't need an IMDb page. Yeah, like, and especially at the time, I guess, were you doing as much ceramic stuff as you're doing now? Or it's not like you were going to do set design for a living like you do ceramics, but I
was doing ceramics mostly, but I'll really do anything. So what was that, 2017 or something?
I think, yeah, Eric came out in 2018 or something.
Yeah,
along
like
those lines.
the end.
2018 is what I had. Pitchfork picked it as on their best list 2018.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I think the end of 2017 it came out.
Okay.
But I could be wrong. It could be 18. Everything's a blur. I think so. At that time, I think I was like just trying to, maybe in my like the end of my first or getting to my second year, trying to like do full-time art, which like mostly was concentrated on ceramics because unfortunately people don't love to buy art as much as they like to buy mugs and stuff like that.
Functional stuff. Functional.
Yeah, adding that stuff on there, and it's just kind of keeping it illustrative is a way for me to like be able to like mix the two and still not have to work in a kitchen.
So did you kind of settle on ceramics or like was that
No, I tried a bunch of stuff first. Where I was like, let me just try and do this. Like, let me see if I can get some screen printing jobs. And like, this job took me forever because like, I'm not really that great at this. I'm okay. But I was like, never, but then I was just like in the midst of all that doing pottery. Mm-hmm. And then after a little while, like trying to figure out my path, I was just like, why is this not it? And then I just
focused on that.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It just kind of felt like a little more of a click. Where I was like, of course, this is what I'll put my energy into.
That's awesome. But you tried like a lot of other, I don't want to say mediums, but like you kind of tried like different things that you could maybe, because you're an adult.
I was like, I'm on parole. I got to be here for X amount of time. I got this amount of time to figure out my path.
Okay.
What's up? What is it? And then, so I very intentionally was trying things for financial gain.
That's what I was gonna say. Like as an adult, you can't really. It would be dope to take an internship somewhere and just work for free for a long time. And like, you'd love to, but it's like, how can you justify that as an adult when you have bills and you got to do shit and you got Yeah,
I remember the first time I heard about volunteer work. Like it was so insane to me. I was like, wait, you volunteer? I ended up doing so much volunteering after this. But
once you start your own business, you learn so much about sweat equity and like.
I was before that, like
before your own business.
Before that, like just in my 20s, like the things that I volunteered to do for like to help other people and stuff. But like at a point in my life where it's just like everything you do has to be for money. And it's like also just like you get so little for everything that you do. Yeah. So you constantly have to be like playing this game.
Yeah, unfortunately, which sucks, but like, I mean, I'm sure that you're in a markedly better place than you were then,
I'm trying to get a little better. I'm starting to value myself a little bit more. I'm starting to like price my stuff a little bit.
That's good.
Better for my time.
And people are buying
selling stuff for way too cheap.
Yeah.
And just being like trying to like, and I think that's part of like me not struggling or just like being able to have some gain is like.
And when you grow up poor, it's like you look at what you create and you're like, would I pay $60 for this mug? Like,
yeah.
But then like you think about it and it's like,
could
could you exactly?
Yeah.
But then this person who's buying it is obviously not in the
now
same
I will buy art and I'll like.
Oh yeah.
I'll justify it in ways like as an investment.
Like,
Yeah, but it is hard. I think I try to accommodate a lot of like the world that I came from, but like when it comes down to that, it's just like you can't. The only way that I can actually make a difference is if I sell my stuff properly to the people who can afford it.
Right.
Therefore, getting enough like financial stability that allows me to give back to the community that I want to give back to. Like, them having one of my mugs is not what they need.
Yeah.
But kids learning that art's attainable and having access to it is what they need.
Yeah.
And that is what now I'm like thinking about money a little more so that I can provide that.
Yeah. But it sucks. Like I feel like our stories are so like paralleled in many ways. And I'm like the same way where like I want to work at so many schools for free because it's like, it's not like my personal time to me is worthless. You know what I mean? Because it's like, I make enough money to live and that's all I care about. And it's like, I don't have a kid or like anyone I got to support. So it's not a huge deal. But like, yeah, you got to think about money the more you get older. And it's like,
yeah,
it affects not just your passion, but like the way you approach things and what you
totally.
want to make and how you make it. And it's kind of crazy.
Just retiring a little comfortable and,
yeah.
You know, I picked a career with like no pension.
Thinking about that, yeah. And then your friends complaining about like, oh, my new job only matches my 401k 20% instead of 50% before. And you're like, Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah, I had an offer from Chevron last year because they're a petroleum company and I make a plastic yo-yo, which is petroleum based. And they're like, oh, we want to use this for a campaign to show everyone like how great petroleum products do for the world. And I'm like, and they never hit me up with like, oh, it pays X amount or anything like that. And I'm like thinking like, oh, this is great for my brand and all that shit you think of as an artist. It sucks really bad,
but you do just get to a point sometimes where like, and I think that's like the thing of like thinking about when you're young and like thinking about like sellouts and shit, where you're just like, man, like people just didn't want to struggle anymore. And like they just wanted a different way of survival. So like they do things for $50,000 or $20,000. I mean, Chevron would have to pay me a lot of money.
Right, yeah.
But I can't say if Chevron came to me and was like, I'm about to give you $50,000, like I just need
do it, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that's like the thing that's like so hard. We're just like,
I'm not saying not
$50,000 would change so much for me.
Oh, yeah.
That it's just like, what am I going to say? I don't know.
Right.
I'd have to see the paper. The project. Right? Let me see what's up. Chevron. Just kidding. Don't hit me up. Don't make me.
Please don't make me.
Don't make me choose against my morals.
It's a heat-activated slip-cast duck that when it's cold, it looks like it's covered in oil, but then when you wash it, the oil turns translucent. Well, while we're on that point, I guess then, do you think that being able to be active, this is a really poor wording, but being someone who contributes to activism or someone who is like active in their community for those things and like doing things for all different races of people as you are, like you're putting on for a lot of people, you're not just like, oh, look at me, like you try to make it about everyone else and not just about you. Do you think that in itself is kind of a white privilege? Because I feel like, I think that there's like definitely white privilege like in there, and I think that like, you know, for me it took like a long time to understand what white privilege was because I didn't have class privilege. Right. So it like really did confuse me, you know. And I even like when I have conversations with people about white privilege from the world that I come from, like they don't understand it. Like it's, you know, and I do, like I understand it now, and I understand that I have a little bit more class privilege because I've like made some tweaks and allowed myself to like appear. Right. Got you. Yeah, impression is so much. Yeah, totally. And like, so I do have like, I have more of a voice. Yeah, like you were talking about earlier, charging more for your work now. People are like, oh, you're a fine artist now. And it's and like, I think it's important to elevate the community with you. Mm-hmm, absolutely. You know, and I think that it is important to like understand that I have a voice, and like it's really I never felt like it was, you know, it's not just for me. And I also think like the stronger that my community is, the stronger I am anyway. Like we all need each other, and we are stronger together. And like there's times that like people help me, like the person who did get my stuff into urban, like how much he changed my life. And I think that there's always area to do that for other people, and that we should always be trying to do that. Yeah. And yeah, white privilege is a big part of that. And I think as you get older, it becomes like a mind state or a state of mind, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like you got to think of everyone else around you and not just your own survival or how these things affect your community. And yeah, white privilege is not going away, and I wish, you know, I do wish that there was more equity and things were just better. But until there is, it's my duty to not keep that for myself now that I have it. Right, yeah. Not that I didn't always have it for my white skin. I would like to acknowledge that, for that I do understand that I was born with it. But I'm just talking about, you know, a little more like elevated privilege. I mean, now that you're in a different place, like you're going to do things differently. It's like you didn't really have the resources and opportunity to do that when you were younger. So it's like now that you're in this different place, of course you're going to do those different things, you know? So it only makes sense. Let me think. So I have no idea anything about the Mummers Parade other than I've had friends' parents who are in it or whatever who are come from the same world we've mentioned who don't understand white privilege. And I know that was like a huge thing a couple years ago. And if you want to like elaborate on that more, because again, I'm like totally unfamiliar with what actually happened, but it sounded like there was just some really insensitive shit going down a few years ago. Like after Trump got elected and people that subscribed to that mind state felt more comfortable to be outward about that mentality.
That was pretty wild. Yeah. When he got elected and just so many people were so much more comfortable being racist out loud.
Oh yeah.
You know, and of course racist people were always there, but it was just like, whoa.
I was reading a Southern Poverty Law Center report the other day about when Obama got elected and just how much militias arose up afterwards, and it was just like, holy shit. Like when
it's wild.
Yeah, when George Bush was president, like no one really gave a shit, and they were just like, oh cool, like we got a white guy in there, and then and then as soon as a black guy was in office, it was like, holy shit, what?
Yeah,
it's so crazy.
That was amazing. We got some. Where'd the trophies go? They're somewhere. I'm rearranging still, so maybe I didn't put them back up yet. But we got a couple. There they go. The Mummers trophies over there on the.
Oh, okay. I see. They're actually trophies.
Yeah. So the Mummers Parade, it's got some like pretty deep racist roots.
Okay.
It was not like I think it started as a folk parade where like people would run outside and bang pots and pans and stuff, but it definitely evolved into something that was like predominant. It was all white and pretty heavy South Philly and Jersey, like South Jersey. And a lot of the things like, and that's the thing about it where it's just like, not only did people people were allowed and awarded to do certain things. So like when you have somebody who's like doing a skit and some people are dressed like aliens and then other people are dressed like, a real bad interpretation of a Mexican with like a sombrero on and a poncho, and they're doing this kind of like dance together and stuff. And so being a part of it and vaudevillains were a part of it. Rabble rousers, we kind of started there and bloomed from there. And both brigades and a few like the Lobster Club trying to like just be like, you don't need to add any of those elements into this parade. Like there's other things to talk about. There's other things in the world that's happening. And here there's things that are happening that are like worth giving time to. Yeah. The first year the Rabble Rousers did it, it was on the Sugar House and kind of like trying to fight that casino. The second year we did scrapitalism, when it was kind of just about like scrapping a bunch of stuff throughout the city. And it was also when 2012, when the world was going to end, we like, threw that into there. And when someone went to scrap the Liberty Bell, all these skeletons came out. That was the year we won in first place. The year after that, we did an attack on Comcast and how evil they are. And
what was the name for that one?
Comcastle.
That's it. Okay,
we did that like giant. We had like a giant. Pun. It's really fun to build those sets and to like make up those dances and just like be on the street just with everyone. And it's a shame that it has these like huge racist like that part's really sad. And like, I mean, it's even like weird because it's like the thought of like when I look back and like people dressing up as like wenches, because I had gone to the Mummers Parade I've only missed a few years. And then because I went with my dad and it's like it was always so fun. But wenches, like they wear dresses and they have an umbrella and like but there's this whole thing where it's just like, oh, it's like the one day of the year that like you can wear a dress and it's okay. Like it just has so many like things about it that just, it really does suck. And I think that the emotional toll that it took on everyone, where it's just like half of us are like, you got to change it from the inside. And then, the other half's like, we can't be a part of this. But then you get to a point where it's just like, you know, these skits aren't going to change anything. Like even the Comcast skit, like this TV channel's owned by Comcast. Like that got cut off the TV. So like no one's really seeing it anyway unless we're posting about it. And it's like the whole organization is fucked up and wrong, which was our last parade ever, Parade of Excuses, where we just attacked the parade. And, you know, and even just like who was it, Pierre Robert's like talking shit about like, how are you going to like attack a parade that you're part of? It's like, you don't fucking get it. And it is even down where it's just like when something is so messed up, it doesn't matter. You can't really change it unless the whole thing just like gets, and it's kind of just like us being in it is like a cop being like, I'm different.
Yeah.
I'm not a bad cop.
He's
like,
cop, yeah.
He's got it. He or she has got it, or they have to understand at some point that like, the whole thing is broken and that needs to get fixed. And being a part of it is probably, unfortunately, not going to do that.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to be proven wrong in either of those departments.
Ditto. And like I said, growing up with a cop for a dad. Like,
oh, yeah, that must have been hard.
Yeah.
How's it now?
We don't talk.
Okay.
We haven't talked in like quite a few years.
Damn. Yeah.
You grow up with something and you're not really aware of how bad it is until you get older.
Right.
And then it's like a part of growing up, and then you like really try to work on doing something to change the system, and you're like, I have so many people involved, and like we made this big effort and people are acknowledging it, so like of course it must be making a difference. Then you're like, fuck, I'm literally gonna have to like dedicate my whole life to this to actually make a difference. And like, I don't know, it doesn't like burst your bubble, but it's just another part of growing up where it's like, shit, like I really want this to be different, but no matter how much I want it to be different, it's going to take a lot more effort than what I'm putting into it.
And that it just comes down to the few amount of people who are in control of these things.
Yeah, the older you get, the more you realize that too. Because you're younger and you're just like, things can change. Like, people change things all the time. And it's like, no, if someone owns this shit, like, and they don't want to change it, like, they don't have to do anything.
I do think that we have a lot of power and togetherness and, like,
you
know, in that way. And I really do think that that's one of the only ways to change things is to, you know, roll together and just fight all at once. You know, if we had enough people at one time who like made a big deal about the Mummers Parade and we fucked up enough parts of it, like they would have to listen to us.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and just applying that to like so many things that are like happening where it's just those people in charge just need to be touchable.
Yeah. And it's impossible. Like,
in
a lot of ways, because...
In a lot of ways,
Yeah. I think a lot of people last year during the election, or not last year, 2016, like, became aware of, like, not how politically corrupt everything is, but just, like, damn, like, we're really out here, and, like, no one even understands how the system truly works, or, like...
Right. A lot of people don't understand.
They don't,
It's a shame that people have more access to information now than they ever had, and they just refuse to like educate or inform themselves, and like people be running with shit just like it's so wild. Like
even if they get the little notification on Facebook or Instagram or whatever that's like, this is a proven false fact, like
really running with it, and it's just a shame because it's like
Instagram's in on it, they're in on it too, Bill Gates is in on it, everyone's in on it, and you're like, what?
The 5G thing with the coronavirus,
it's been a wild year. Like
it's been a wild year,
When we were younger, and it's like, I remember, like, when being a 9/11 denier was, like, a huge thing. Like, not denying it happened, but people just being like, oh, it's possibly an inside job, and people would be like, what? You're fucking crazy. And now,
America!
Like, if that was a
people
thing
like,
now,
hold up.
Those same people who were of that mentality back then would probably be different now. Like,
I mean, we're terrible. America is a terrible country. It's beautiful, and that's like the thing about it too. It's just like I think it's such a wonderful place in so many different ways, but like everything we've done, we've just like wreaked havoc on all that is good about this place. And you know, and it really is just so sad. And you know, and this is why it's like such a beautiful country But when I look at the American flag, like, it just embodies something completely different than, like, the beautiful parts about this place.
Yeah. And it's just aesthetically hideous as well. In comparison to all 200 other flags that are actually pretty nice.
It's an ugly flag.
Or symmetric, or at least have some sort of artistic symbolism behind them. It's just like...
It's not something that I look at and love, even though I do love America... But not in this, like, weird nationalist way. Like, that's just not...
Yeah.
It's just wrong.
It's the same way you look at, these business opportunities where it's like you got to prefer to look at the good parts and focus on those and try to, like, formulate where you're going to sacrifice what you want to try to help with the bad. But now that you mention it and how awful America is right now, because it's funny when I was listening to the other podcast with you and you said this, I was like, damn, like at first I was like, damn, this must be like recent. Then I was like, wait, no, this is like 2 years old. When you said that you're like, I feel another American Civil War coming.
Oh yeah, I did say that. Well, I also now just an elevated thought about this where it's just like, that is really wild. I mean, I really do think like the only way that like things can change is like if we kind of all like rise up and like, I know war sucks, like all that stuff sucks. And I'll hear like a lot of like white people just like bring up the point of like how poor people always get like the shit end of war and they're always affected the most by it. And like, and it's true, but it's just also like, well, this is a slow, long, drawn out war. They're fucking the most affected by it now. Like,
right.
And it's just these things. And it's not just about, I think if, it just sucks really bad because it's like, ideally we need to make capitalism work because that's like the system that's like put in place and we like need to do these things. But like really everything just needs to be like shaken down and like more diverse. I wish there was like a way to do that was like peaceful and that would actually make a difference. But
yeah, it sucks that capitalism is part of what makes America great, but it also is what destroys it in so many ways.
We just do. I mean, the way that we do it is like we don't have to do it the way like if we just.
And it's crazy because you look at companies that, and Whole Foods isn't like a great example, but it's like it doesn't seem like that they're only ultimately concerned with the capitalism of everything. You know what I mean? They ended up being a very large company now. Yeah. But
and like, I even think that like it was started by a white dude.
Yeah.
Like most things, like he already had more privilege. He already had more opportunities. Like he was able to just like finagle this fucking thing that is what Whole Foods is now.
Yeah.
He was able to build something that Jeff Bezos wanted to buy.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I don't know. Part of me is just like wants to be like, let's fucking rise up. Like I'm ready. And then the other part's just like, we need to tap out and like try to build our own economy. And like, I get it all where it's just like, the environment's not really hurt by individuals because corporations are the ones doing it. And it's just like, all of these things are true, but they also are ways to like, I feel, to allow us to not feel accountable that what we do. Yeah. Absolutely. And it's just like, okay, well, like, what is a year of our fucking lives? And COVID has even proved, like, what is a year of our lives? So, like, say we did tap out of that economy, or we were all like, we're not going to buy anything new, or we're not going to, do this stuff. Or if we do have to buy something new, we're at least going to, like, buy it from this local store and have them order it. And we're going to wait 2 weeks for it. Just, like, the amount of change that we could all do if we just kind of honed in and, like, made some sacrifices and really cared about each other would change a lot. Like, we really could kind of change the face of capitalism. We could get a little bit more control.
Yeah, that's such a great point.
And it sucks really bad, but like race stuff, it's just like, it can't, like, it's not okay that, if Biden wins and like things like, and white people just get comfortable again, they're like, I did my part. That's like, that's not okay. And it's just like saying that you accept like what's happening, like their reality.
Yeah, things still haven't changed. Like things are still the same as they were last year.
Totally. I mean, minimum wage is still fucking $7.25 in Pennsylvania. Yeah. Like this is, and something needs to happen. Like we all need to do something about that. And it's just like, I mean, would never pay somebody that.
Right, yeah.
You know, but there's like a lot of people, there was a time in my life where like that's all that I had was those kinds of jobs. Like, you know, like my aunt was like offended that they were thinking about raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour because she worked so hard to get that. And it's just like, okay, well that doesn't, you should be getting paid more than that though.
And it's like such a crabs in the bucket mentality where it's like, you don't realize the systemic change this could cause, because if everyone has more money and is spending more money, it's going to bring the economy up. Like whoever you work for could probably pay you more because they're going to be making more money. Like
totally,
but they don't think about it that way because it's like America kind of breeds you to be a sociopath. Where it's
right,
like,
and on top of that, just like the way
me?
that capitalism is now, and with shareholders and all of that stuff, they're like unwilling to be a part of it, which like will cause them to like raise, so like because of that unbalance, you know, and that's the part that like really needs to be changed. And I think one of the ways that could happen is everyone realizing that with a little bit of sacrifice we could make a big difference, because it's like, yeah, those companies are polluting the most and they are doing the most destruction, but who is supporting them, who is like allowing them to continue? And it's just like, yeah, one person might not make a difference, but like we are many.
Yeah, I really like Dave Chappelle's been like a very tumultuous figure this past couple of years. I love him too, but I love that this week of his whole like, he
has said and done a few things though, as you know, now in my life where I'm just like, ew. But overall, he was very important for me in high school, growing up. Yeah, just like really big deal for me.
When I watch the newer specials and he says like those trans jokes, and I'm like, is this really necessary? But
yeah, like, and he does, like, I will give him that he does make fun of everyone in a way that is just like, I just think that like right now, trans people need more care and protection.
Right, and always.
And and like it's not really.
Yeah, the argument of like it normalizes them, so it's actually a good thing to make fun of them, still doesn't take away like the trauma. You know what I mean? Like
totally. I mean, it's like
there's a few letters of the LGBTQ that like are a little more lenient, that aren't
they were
as
a little
fresh.
more protected. Then it would. Yeah, totally.
You can poke like not jokes, but like make comfortable fun of them as if we make fun of all other white people. But
I think the big issue with like what he said too, where it's just like, at what point of this do I need to participate? And it's just like, well, this person
asked you to participate.
is saying that to refer to them as she, and that they're a woman, and like you, like it's not about you participating, it's about you respecting their wishes.
Yeah. But the way that he's kind of going about against Viacom,
it's not even their wishes though. Just to like roll back on that, like it's just not. It's not even like there's something like, you know. But it's just respecting them, and valuing them, and like.
It's and I think, I don't know, maybe because he hasn't really spoken out about it since, so maybe he was like pointing it out. I don't want to say in that way.
I think he did apologize in another special, and then I really liked his. I didn't watch the whole Saturday Night Live after Biden won, but I watched Dave Chappelle's opening.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, the skits were really good too. A couple of them were really, really funny.
Maybe I'll YouTube them.
Yeah, but they were also like the same kind of line where it's like one was a skit about Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben, and then the guy who did like the voiceover for, I forget, like Progressive Insurance or whatever. That was like a black actor from the 80s that has like a James Earl Jones kind of voice.
Okay.
But they were all just like arguing about like they don't want to lose their jobs and shit, and it was just, like, it was a very, very funny skit, and it's like, why do we gotta lose your jobs? Because y'all are uncomfortable with this, and it's like, wow, like that's Dave Chappelle's job in a way. It's to like make you look at things in that other perspective from both sides, and it's weird and uncomfortable sometimes. But I guess what I was saying was just, I think the atmosphere now for creative people is, I mean, it's still not good, but like it's getting better. And I think, you know, with people like Dave Chappelle more speaking out and saying like, I was treated unfairly and I want things to be different. And like, yes, this capitalist system sucks. And like, I signed this contract, but like, was that right? Like,
Right.
and is it not right to like renegotiate, even though I've like made this crazy amount of money for you guys? And like,
Totally.
it's just a really interesting place because 20, 30 years ago, it's like that wasn't a thing. Or it's like if someone said that, like when Prince said it, they're like, oh, you're crazy. Like,
Right.
you signed the contract, you got Paisley Mansion. Like, why do you care? And it's like, but it's different. You know what I mean?
Because you
like,
have 8 mansions.
Right.
And I have 1.
There was a really good Sting quote this year about an artist like sampled a Sting song, and he's like, "Yeah, my grandkids are gonna go to college off that." And it's like, what a fucking tool bag! Like, someone else worked really hard. It was just something you happened to play. They like interpolated it, and then you're getting 80% of the benefits now from it, which is fucking insane to me.
Yeah.
But
Oh yeah.
yeah, I have a note about stupid cops. So we won't go too far into it because we've talked for like 2 hours now or something crazy. It's been a long conversation. But you had like, I'm trying to think of the right way to say it, because I don't want to like go too far into it. But like, I guess I just want to talk about stupid cops because I've also gotten arrested for marijuana possession before, and just like
Totally.
what you go through in those situations. And
It's ridiculous. My brother got arrested like 4 years ago for a gram.
probably less than a gram even, what I mean? It might have been some like
fucking
shake in a
gram,
bag,
dude.
and they're like, what? Which is crazy because like, when you got arrested and they like you originally told them it was lavender, it's like police are fucking idiots. Like they totally
So
believe
dumb.
shit like that, you know what I mean?
They're so dumb.
Like, oh no, this is. And if you have, again, like it all harkens back to white privilege, and it's like if you have one of those lawyers that's like, oh, we got to test this gram of weed, like to make sure it's not CBD or anything, and if it's not over 3% THC because it's CBD, and then the cop would have been like, fine, I'm just throwing it out, you know what I mean? But like then you need $2,000 to hire a lawyer, whatever the fuck it costs to retain a lawyer.
Really
like,
expensive.
It's all, right? Yeah.
That was one of the biggest expenses of my life.
I don't doubt it. Yeah.
Yeah, all the money that I saved trafficking weed, I like, used most of it to stay out of jail.
Yeah. Everyone I know that has ever like sold on a higher level
Or out of prison.
basically has that, where they're just like, I'm saving this money for when I'm eventually going to get caught. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, what do you mean? Why?
Like, this might happen. But then it's just the luxuries that it afforded me, like, while it was happening was great.
Yeah, absolutely. Even if, you had to prepare for such a thing. But
Yeah.
I remember when I got arrested, like, they didn't write my height right. Like, they said I was 8'5" instead of 5'8" or something. Just little things that, again, if I would have, like, hired a lawyer and really wanted to fight it, that would have been instantly to throw it out.
Yeah.
It's like, you fucked up the paperwork? Like, what do you mean?
You're like, you arrested a giant.
Yeah, what is your problem? Yeah.
Yeah. You got the wrong guy.
Yeah. And then we got, like, pulled over with, like, other... like not only weed but like BHO, like oil and stuff like that. So then it's like, all right guys, like we got to tell them that this isn't like, because if you get caught with that, then they're gonna charge you with like
totally
manufacturing a Schedule I drug and like just all this crazy shit. It was just insane. And then the fact that like we told them where the drugs are, then they still insist on bringing a K9 unit out to search the car to find where the drugs are, but didn't take all the drugs.
Yeah,
it's just like,
it is really funny that just the difference. I got arrested one time. I was in Wildwood, and I was young. There was like a noise complaint or something, and I was rolling a blunt, which I don't smoke those anymore because they hurt.
Ditto.
But, so I was like rolling a blunt, and then this cop rolls up, and I like take the weed, and I stick it like in my bra. Did I have a bra on? I stick it in my shirt. Who knows? I stuck it right here.
Yeah.
And I just, the whole time, like, in the police station, I just smell weed. Like, I'm like,
I'm loud as fuck.
Smell like weed so bad, yeah. And I just, I just got the noise with, like, nobody, I just did not get in trouble for the weed.
That's crazy. Well, like, you obviously reeked like weed if they would have just did a little bit of search, which, like, again, who would have fucking 0.75 of weed? Like,
yeah.
You really need to get a charge for that, but... Yeah, and it's so crazy. When I got arrested in Idaho, which is like who the fuck ever gets arrested for marijuana possession there? And you're literally like an hour and a half away from the Colorado border.
Right.
So it's like, had I been just a little bit further, and it was legalized there at the time, and it was just like, what in the fuck? Like, how do you even...
Yeah, I got some really good weed in Canada when I was there last.
Yeah, ditto.
I don't know if I'm allowed back in. They got all these rules.
Also ditto. I didn't. Yeah.
They're like, no felons, no DUIs.
My friend who got arrested with me, he got stopped at the border, but they let him through originally. But now that it's like all rec in Canada, he got through last time with no problem.
Oh,
and
nice.
he got the same charge I did, which was just like
I was like wondering. They had
charge.
like I looked it up. You can like fill out.
But also
they don't
I have
you like fill out a permit or something.
Yeah, I have a speeding ticket, which is technically a reckless driving charge, and they can deny you entry in Canada for that too.
Whoa.
Yeah,
You have a speeding ticket in Canada?
No, I have a speeding. It's in Virginia technically.
I got a speeding ticket in California in 2009, and I never paid it.
They're gonna get you for that.
They tried before, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll pay it."
Never
I didn't pay it.
I didn't pay it. I have a ticket in Arizona. I lived there for like 5 years.
When I got arrested, I was like, "Yeah, do I have a warrant or anything for that? Or like, is it gone? What's up with it?" And my lawyer couldn't even find it.
Huh? They must have just dropped it.
I was like,
That's
now
so
that
funny.
everyone's taking my money, is the time for me to pay this ticket.
Yeah, I might as well get right with this.
Yeah.
That's
so I don't know.
Hysterical. Yeah, it's the whole, your other podcast you recorded was mostly about your experience going to jail and stuff like that, which is a crazy podcast, and like I won't cover too much about that because it
Mara McNamara.
Yeah, it's a great podcast.
Yeah.
It's called Unbroken Chain.
Yeah.
Unbroken Chain. Okay, yeah.
She's really good. Her soul is like, you know, I could compare it to a valley of wildflowers, like with morning dew and like the sun just like glistening down.
Yo, these are high regards.
Yeah.
You mentioned like the ingenuity that people have in jail because like you don't have a lot of resources and like you kind of make do with what you have. Yeah. And it's kind of crazy. Yeah. And I think, you know, coming from the background that you did, like you're kind of built for those situations in a way. So it's like, definitely it sounds like jail changed you, but it's funny like to hear you talk about it. And it's like, maybe wasn't as bad an experience for you as it would have been for like some of our other middle class friends where it's
absolutely.
like, oh, this is crazy.
Yeah, the
like,
experience would have broke some people.
Right.
Now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the food, awful. Sounds awful.
Food's
Everything
pretty
about
bad,
it sounds terrible.
yeah.
But
which
like,
is a shame because, and it's also just like, you know, they make people sit around so much and they could be doing so many other things with their time and just like.
Anytime I think about going to jail, that's the main thing I think about is like the wasted time. You know what I mean?
It's a
Where it's
shame.
like you can't get it back. It's like, what are you gonna do? Like,
Yeah.
And people, especially when like people are wrongfully convicted, and it's like you just lost all these years, and it's like.
Yeah. I mean, and a lot of people, even not wrongfully, people who aren't even convicted yet, who just like spend all of this time just like fighting to be out of that. And it, you know.
Yeah. Like you were saying, there's people that you were locked up with who could have, if they had $150 or $500 for bail, could have been out of there. And it's like, you don't know someone that, and it's like, you know, it's
$1,500 and you're like, oh man.
Yeah. Like from white privilege, it's like you might not have $1,500, but like you could touch someone that does have that. And
or you could like
I'm in jail. Can I please borrow money? Like,
can
sure.
everyone pitch in a little bit for this to happen?
But like in a lot of other communities, that just doesn't exist. Or like if you're living paycheck to paycheck, or everyone around you is living paycheck to paycheck, like you don't have $500 or $1,000, especially to come out of pocket. So
it's a lot of money.
It is, yeah, and it's kind of crazy. I got really lucky that I guess my bail was like $600 or whatever.
Oh wow,
and it was funny because I get pulled over with all these fucking drugs, and then I like did a yo-yo show, so we had like $2,000 in cash on us, which paid for our bail. But I'm telling the cops arresting us, you know how they can just like take that if they want. And I was like, oh no, I have like receipts for everything, and they like let me keep it and then pay my bail with that. And it was just.
Did they ask to look for the receipts?
No, they like because they
look at them. Yeah.
They like did a Google real quick and like knew that I was in town for this.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I said that the money that I had, I said that I made DJing, and I don't even think that they looked it up or anything.
As long as you have an excuse and a reason, they're probably like, oh, they know that you're up on this type of shit, and it's like, yeah, the type of shit they would say, like when they're like taking my fingerprints, and they're like, you really think you should be doing this, like working with kids and going to schools and stuff? I'm like, you think I'm like in the parking lot, like rolling up right before I go do a yo-yo show for a kid?
You're
like,
just like, yeah, man, like you can buy a yo-yo or you can buy a dime bag.
Yeah, like,
I got both. Like,
do you really think that's what this is, or like? And it was just, it was so eye-opening. And then they were like, you're lucky that you have proof that that's your money, or else, like, that goes right to, like, canine training. And I'm like,
oh, jeez.
Cool, guys. Like, thanks. It's just some shit my dad would say where it's like, what a piece of shit. Like, what is your problem? Like, what did I do to you? Like, I'm making your job easy. You probably wouldn't have done nothing today.
Do you think your dad watches these and he subscribed to your channel?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But whatever.
What's up, Dad? He didn't do that. I did. So.
Trying to think of other questions to ask you. I already talked about earlier. Just like being able to be an activist, I think, is like a huge part of white privilege. Because like when you were locked up with other people and you were filing all these grievances, like probably other women you were locked up with had no idea like that you could even do such a thing.
No idea that they, and just also just how powerful they are.
Right.
Particularly if you have a lawyer, like those things are like.
Yeah. It sucks that like everyone has rights, but like you said, like none of these grievances got heard until you had a reaction because you actually are a celiac or like.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, it is. It's kind of wild thinking about that stuff and just like how some of the ones that were just being written were just like for some real basic needs. Mm-hmm. And it's just the fact that like people have to write grievances or just do all this stuff just to be heard.
Yeah.
It's just like all these voices in there that are just unheard, and then they're not heard by the facility, and then they're not heard by people out of it.
Yeah.
Like people are discredited, and it's like it's a shame. And people are in our culture, the way that people think about criminals or like look at criminals, and it's just so wrong.
Right. Yeah.
They're not people.
It was something that you mentioned like in your last podcast, like whether or not like you'd be able to work with kids, or it's something that like you really want to do, and it's like maybe this would affect it. And it's like I've never like it's funny because people who do ask for background checks or whatever, I've never lost a gig because I have a marijuana charge. You know what I mean?
Right.
They really care about whether or not you're a pedophile, which
totally
is the more important thing, obviously.
Yeah, and I think like when it came down to that, it was just like maybe not so much being a felon versus just like talking about like the world that I came from, or like just all of this like other stuff, or like the things that I've done, where it's just like, like people just judge and they just think they know. And
it's hard because so many people from where we came from are still those people. You know what I mean? Like that whole sentiment of like you are who you are, not what you came from or whatever, is so true with people like you. But it's like for the majority of people, it's not that way who come from those situations, and it's like it kind of harps on your mentality.
People, they live in a bubble and they stay in it. Fucking bubble people. Fuck those bubble people. Pop all those bubbles.
So talking about 2021 and this being the year that you get the fucking bag.
Yeah.
Are you thinking about like expanding to more things? Or because it seems like
so I would like to do some more things. I got like some ideas. Like I really want to write a kid's book. I would like to
you'd be perfect at that. I see people commenting on your Instagram here and there about that, and I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I would really like to do that kind of stuff. I'd like to do some more classes, workshops, stuff like that. I would love to paint some murals, and I really like doing design stuff because it's like it's like a faster turnaround.
Yeah.
So it like feels a lot nicer.
And with production, it's a lot easier.
Yeah, I'd like to sell more like one of a kind art. I want to do production, but I don't want to just do production. I don't want to fall into these like real hard production holes. Mm-hmm. Because I haven't been able to like, it's like the things that I want to make. It's just like I don't really have time to like get to them.
Yeah.
Or all these like new ideas and stuff.
Because you have so much other like contract
Yeah, because
work.
it's like I'm trying to survive.
Right.
And it's just like, I need to do all of these other jobs just to like live.
Yeah, make ends meet. And then...
So if I was just like, did some other things that like help me balance financially, I could like do all of that other stuff.
Yeah. That's crazy. Like just where you are now with it, you know what I mean? Because I'm sure a couple of years ago, you probably had never even thought about a lot of these things. Oh
yeah, it's really exciting to have gotten to like, I feel really lucky even though I worked really hard for it.
Oh yeah.
And it's just it is lucky. It's lucky that people like my stuff enough to like want to buy it, and like they're excited about it, and it's like it feels really exciting.
Yeah, hard work puts you in those positions, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not like one doesn't come without the other, but it's definitely because you've worked so hard you get put in those positions to be able to have those opportunities. Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned like a children's book, or just like I feel like your artwork is so like ready to be merchandised. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it
I'm
could
totally down the merchandise.
Go on anything. And
Yeah.
Like...
Yeah.
But as you know, and you know, doing these jobs for Urban, it's like someone licensing your work is not obviously as lucrative as like someone buying your product.
Totally. And it's not. It's like when you license, which is nice, like I'm licensing something next year.
That's awesome.
To Anthropology.
That's so dope.
Yeah, am I allowed to talk about that? Yeah. Right?
Sure, yeah.
I don't know. I'm not allowed to post about it.
Yeah. You can talk about it though. We just can't see the product.
It's a surprise. I won't say anything else. It's a sweatshirt.
I'll beep that out.
But I just like the design that I did was just like, you know, you can use this for 3 months and I get like a little bit of money for it.
Right.
And it's just like, man, that's great. If more of that stuff could happen, it's just like, oh man, like maybe I'm making a little bit of a salary at that point. That's the goal.
And it's now that you like own a business though, you're understanding like the margins of how all these things work, and you're like, damn, I'm making it because it's my fucking artwork on the sweatshirt, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and this is the funny part about it, was just like at first when they, you know, approached me about doing it, and the first thing I thought was like, oh, cool, I'm gonna have a design on a sweatshirt that like is out of my price range.
Right? Yeah, I would never buy anything from there either.
Yeah,
because I can't afford it.
I got one thing from there before. I still think about it.
What was it?
This like, I wore it to my friend Todd and Birdie's wedding.
Okay.
And it's just a one piece, like, it's green, like, and this shit ripped that day. And I was just like, I remember it was like, I don't remember exactly how much it was, but it was like 100 and plus something. And I remember being really upset. I have sewed and fixed it myself. But I didn't expect that to happen. Yeah, and it was like kind of like loose and flowy too.
So of course it got caught on something and ripped.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably just like got down to like dance, and it was just like, or who knows? I'm sure I did something wild and it was like ripped.
So you're trying to get into doing more one-of-one pieces, but it's like obviously that's hard economically to make work, and especially now with COVID, where it's like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like what drives the excitement for those sort of things when you have like a show or something accompanying it, and there's like the build up and the campaign, and then people come and buy shit, and then it's like a wave and you get more followers.
Yeah, which would be great too, is just to have like more art shows and galleries that like have, you know, heavy foot traffic and people with, you know, heavy pockets.
It's kind of crazy in Philadelphia how many talented people there are for all these sorts of things, and the lack of resources there are. And it's just so East Coast to me, where it's like,
totally,
there's a lack of shit, and there's like obviously people here that could like afford those sort of things. Or I really liked like when the pandemic first started, and some homeless people were like just rehabbing or like basically squatting in houses in West Philly, and then that were like abandoned for years, and like fixed the walls, and like actually were like running electricity.
Which is
from,
great,
like,
and that should be like more like we should be doing that stuff more. PHA should be, you know, giving affordable housing options to people. Yeah,
eventually the city was like, okay, you can have like a couple dozen of them or whatever, but it's still like for how much here is completely empty, and like what that would do for the community.
There's a lot of abandoned homes here, and it's wild. And there's like people keep building homes and stuff.
Oh, yeah. I've never thought about that, the contrast of like how much they're building versus like how much here that's abandoned. Like,
just building a bunch of garbage when like there's a bunch of gems that could be polished.
Yeah, I mean, as unfortunate as COVID is and how much it sucks and everything, I think it's doing some good things as far as like creating a median level amongst the city, like property values going down, so like more people that like want to live here can afford to live here, and it's like pushing people out who were like, we're only here to like, you know, make money on property or whatever. And
which also I think should just be like, as the city should be trying to protect it's people a little bit more like, and that's like the thing with like capitalism and all this stuff where it's just like, we need to have, or the government needs to have their people's back. You know, people shouldn't just be able to come in with money and like do whatever they want and control all this stuff. Like, you know, they should be like, you're allowed to buy 2, you're from New York, like you can buy 1 to 2 properties a year. Or like even that grant that they were like, did this grant to help Philadelphians buy homes, you know,
all
not
the tax abatement stuff. And
and I looked into that, and it was just like crazy. Like your house is on a lien, like just what they're offering was just insane. And it's like, this is not something good for people to like. You should be offering them something better.
It's not conducive for the people who live here currently.
Like, and on top of that, where it's just like, you know, there's districts, like there's no reason that this school should be getting more money than this school, or that these resources should be going here. Like it needs to be, and it just always comes down to the people who are in charge, you know. And it's just like, it's a shame because there are enough resources to be given to everyone, but you know, people just certain people just want to have them and just have full control.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks from all angles, and hopefully
they want it all.
2021 will be a little different now that that's this levelized or
I hope so. And I hope that people understand the importance of like local elections and stuff like that. And
I think this time around people were a lot more aware of those sorts of things, and just because they didn't want to vote for Biden so much, it's like, well, let me look into everyone else I'm voting for.
Well, this is one of those positive parts of COVID, is the amount of time that people had to be involved in, you know.
Yeah. Speaking of 2021, and then other than this other urban project you have coming out, I know you probably
that one's out.
The
urban one's out.
Well,
the Anthro one, that will be next year.
What else did you want to do in 2021? Or I know, like, for creatives right now, it's so weird because, like, normally I would be like working with kids all over the summer for summer camps, but it's like next year I don't even really want.
Yeah, what's next year?
Right, I don't want to put my eggs in that basket.
Yeah,
so like
next year I would like to have. I was supposed to have my first solo art show this year.
That's awesome. In the city, or
it'd be really cool if like I could line that up again for next year.
Yeah,
and I would like to do like a small trip somewhere, because this year has been different for me because my niece and nephew are with me during the weeks, and I'm doing school with them, you know. And I think so next year I would like to work on a new body of work. That's like the thing too, where it's just like, if I had a little bit of financial security, I'd be able to like put time and energy into a new body of work, without worrying about other stuff. So,
there's a lot of sweat equity that goes into that.
And just kind of saving some money and stuff like that. And one of my biggest goals is to have like a monthly income, instead of just, you know, you do this one job, you get paid for it, you're like
good until
making that manage for like so like stuff like that. And I don't know, Vans, hit me up for some shoes or something. Like
anyone, please, anyone.
Yeah, so someone just like hit me up. What's up?
That's awesome. Yeah, it's surprising to say your first solo show, because again, I feel like you just have such
always been in group shows.
Well, yeah, I feel like those are kind of easy to just hop on.
And last year was the first time I was ever in a show without like a man, like a white dude. Really,
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Was it all a show with like women, or like?
It was two. Rose Eduardo is a woman, and Rita Griman is a woman, and Lorelei Ramirez, who's non-binary, and me.
Okay, cool.
It was called Eating Dirt. It was the first show I curated ever, and it was
too.
pretty tight. Yeah, I have some. I got some photos taken of it. I've been meaning to post on like my website. I thought it looked great.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And again, it's just flexing your creative muscles to like.
Yeah.
You're curating the show now instead of just like, oh, I'm a part of the show. And like, you know, I don't know, like when you do your own solo show, I'm sure you're going to be basically like directing and doing everything to do with that probably.
Yeah. That would be fun. Hopefully.
Yeah.
I'd like to get into like bigger galleries and stuff like that. Would be cool. And I'm into doing group shows and stuff. I love that that stuff. It's like, yeah.
But doing something on your own is still, I don't know, like it's way more rewarding, and it's like, you know, everything is always a group effort, and even if you do a solo show, I'm sure
absolutely.
There's so many hands that go into it, but it's like to know that people are purely there to see you or there to look at your work, like yeah. So
that is
really
an exciting
cool.
feeling,
yeah,
and nerve-wracking.
Yeah, speaking of which, like today you just posted a bunch of new stuff on your site, and it sounds like it's selling pretty well.
Yeah, that was cool. Johnny coming in with that info. That was tight. That's exciting. I mean, that stuff just, it feels really exciting, and I just feel ever grateful and lucky.
Yeah. What is your, I guess, like, do you just kind of work on stuff until you have a nice group of things to post? Or are you like, I want to post this one thing specifically, so I'm going to work on 20 of them to post on the site? Or I had to do an order for
I want to do that. I want to be like, I'm working on stuff for my website. And that's like the shame about my website is like, it always just ends up being like the leftovers or this thing that I just like randomly did. You know, and like,
it makes it hard to like really build your own fan base that comes to you.
Yeah,
and the margin when you sell something to direct
my
is so much
website's
more.
like rarely ever stocked, and I would, it would be really nice because then I also am just like getting more, and also then I can have my prices more directed at what I think they should retail at. All of my prices are based off of, I do mostly wholesale, so I'm like, I have to get X amount of money for it. So like maybe some things are more than I actually want them to be.
Right.
Because of that.
But it takes more labor.
Yeah, I would like to have just like a line sheet of things that I wholesale, and then like I would like to be able to sell the rest of it. I want to have time for this stuff, you know? Like I was going to make Donald Trump's hemorrhoid cream like months ago. I make this bottle, and then I decided it would be better if it was that baby rash butt cream stuff, because he's such a fucking baby. I want to do stuff like that, and then I want to be able to like, just get more for it. I want to be like, you can have that for $35. I'm like, no, that shit took too long.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's something, again, coming from where we come from, it's always hard to like,
it's
not even just like what you want to pay for it. It's like you could never imagine charging X amount for something, but it's like you look at other people and it's like, I know my shit takes just as long as that, and they charge this for that. And and
there's some things I make where I'm like, I should get $400 for this because this took so long.
Right.
And then I'm like, cool, $170.
And perception is everything. Like, I'm sure you've noticed, like, when you put those higher price tags, maybe you don't get as many sales, but like the people who are interested, it's like it caters to that upper echelon of people versus like when it's kind
I'm trying to understand that.
When it's kind of a regular price, you know what I mean? It's so funny. Like when I hit up summer camps and I'm like, oh yeah, it's like flexible. If you don't have any money, then whatever. Like I can just sell yo-yos to the kids. But then you quickly realize like all these places have fucking money or whatever. So
they have money, yeah.
Right. So then if you just come off the top with like, oh, it costs $500, and then they're like, well, we can't afford that, but we can afford this. It's like the perception of them seeing you as like more than you're actually worth, or what you are really worth. You know what I mean?
I want to design a rug next year.
Yeah.
That somebody makes. Like that's some stuff I want to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Rugs are a huge thing right now. Everyone's making a rug.
Yeah, everyone's making rugs. I like look at that.
And they're expensive. Like when you look at how much they cost, it's like,
I bet, dude, this shit probably takes so long.
You realize like how little margin a lot of these brands like on Instagram and shit. I
borrowed my friend Mimi's tufting gun, and I'm gonna try and make a rug.
That's sick.
You know,
as long as it's not too big, I feel like it's easy for you to do, but it's also like it takes hours, and then it's like
gonna take a long time. I'm gonna keep it.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
that's
like maybe make like a really long cheetah.
A long cheetah.
Yeah.
An extended
just
one.
Like a long cheetah rug for the hallway.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you have any more like quirky ideas for merchandise you want to make, or?
So. I mean, yeah.
I feel like so much of your stuff is just
I really I want to make more of the dysfunctional ceramics and stuff, like the ceramic erasers.
Okay.
And things like that.
Dysfunctional ceramics, gotcha.
Yeah, it's like the ceramic erasers are for people who don't make mistakes. And just like fake little, like they just made like packaging and stuff like that. I want to do more stuff like that. And I got like my little sketch notebook thing. I got all these things in here of my ideas, and then I just got a new one. My friend Andy Mulholt designed me, so I'm gonna start. But you're gonna have to stay tuned to see to see my future ideas.
See everything come to fruition.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to talk about ceramics. We talked about the world.
But look at I want to do more sculptural pieces, stuff like that. Things that like I don't just want to do functional ceramics. Like next year, if I could start selling more sculptural stuff, and then therefore I'd have more time to make it.
Yeah.
You know, I did this vase with the shoe, and I want to do more stuff that. I don't know, maybe there will just only be one. I'm going to make a sock hamper for my friend. It's just going to be a giant sock where he can keep his socks.
Do you have like a lot of ideas for things like this, or is this kind of just like you start off making a shoe? And
sometimes I just jot things on there, like the pair of jeans. And I also I want to make a giant coil snake for the corner of a room that has a plant in it.
Yeah, it's so interesting when people like creatives and just how they branch off, you know what I mean? Because like you said, everyone kind of expects you just like, oh, I made a mug, I made a planner, I made this, I made that. But then it's like there's literally a whole world of other shit of like tchotchkes, other functional stuff. Like it's not limitless, but it really is in a lot of ways. Like
totally.
You don't have enough time in the day to make everything that you possibly could be making. So
no. But maybe by the end of the year next year I'll have made a bunch of cool stuff.
Yeah, this COVID is really making it interesting for creative people and like people who make money off of their creativity right now, because it's like, what the fuck do you do? Or like people are still buying things, but it's like it's not the same where I don't know. It's interesting. The campaign.
Yeah, I spent most of the year working for Urban, definitely.
That's awesome. Even in general, like without the pandemic or this year specifically.
I think the pandemic definitely helped it, because I did an order for them earlier in the year, and then they reordered it.
That's awesome.
It had sold so fast. And
does that not typically happen? They normally only do like...
They reorder things sometimes, but like generally when we reduce, like when we work together the next time, it's like a new batch of stuff.
This one did so well though.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird as an artist when you want to do new things and then they're like, no, give us the same thing again. You're like, people are really going to buy them again? Like, are you sure?
Yeah, it's nice to think how many, like, because of Urban, how many of like my planters or like little things are in people's houses.
Do you get tagged a lot on Instagram with that kind of shit? Or?
You know, not as much. There was even this person, somebody sent me this, there was like a YouTube like influencer or somebody who had like a lot of followers, and she did some makeup stuff. I found out about it from Andy's sister, who sent it to me, and she's like all into that, you know,
cosmetics world.
Yeah. And she said that somebody or she bought my planner from, and she talks to, so people do this. I don't know if you know this, but I did not know this, where people will like buy stuff and they just show you. They're like, this is, and I got this, and they like just basically like run through, and they're like
an unboxing, but like,
and then like the next edit is like them wearing the outfit, and you know, it's so wild. I only ever seen this person do it, but so they're going through all the stuff that they bought at Urban, and they just like pull out my planner. And they're like, and I bought this cute planner. And they like look at the bottom at this sticker, because I have to write. The first time that I ever did an order for them, they were like, we're giving you a chargeback because you didn't provide a coup. And I was like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
But it's country of origin. You're supposed to have a sticker on the bottom of all your stuff. Mm-hmm. So I got one made after the second time. And the first time I just bought whatever, but I got one made. It's just like handmade by Jarmel in Philadelphia, with like my little handle on my website.
Yeah.
And she just like looks at it. You know, this person's got like a huge following, and then they're just like, put it down, like just completely, which is like also fine, but it's just like, I think to a lot of people, like I'm just lumped up.
Yeah.
Like you're lumped into this, or people aren't like, most of the people shopping there aren't like, oh, like, let me check out the artist edition, or like, oh, this was like one of kind, like handmade, like one person did all of this from beginning to end, including packaging this.
Yeah.
So it's like, so I do get tagged, but it's always the gems. The gems are tagging me.
That's good.
And like really kind of going.
And those mean more than like random people.
Absolutely.
And you know that like you've made X amount of pottery for them, so it's out in the world and people are enjoying it. But
yeah, I was thinking about that. I had to have made like close to 1,000 or.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's so dope.
Around there.
Yeah, and they're just out there. Do they mainly sell them like in the tri-state area or whatever? Or
yeah, so they did. A lot of times it's online only, and then there's times when it's in their. It's been in their 10 most foot trafficked stores. So it doesn't go to everywhere, but it will go to like their popular stores. Yeah.
If you were to make a product that Urban was buying, like that's kind of like really key spacing on their.
I went and they weren't the closest one was like Brooklyn or something, but then they like put it the one time I did it 2 years ago or something. It was in King of Prussia Mall, and I went there.
That's tight.
And I posed next to it. And then this other time I did see my sheet set in there that I did with them.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
You did a sheet set. That's sick.
Yeah, I did a rainbow sheet set with like cloud pillowcases.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's dope that you get those opportunities because, like, I'm sure, as you know, like making that stuff on your own is wicked expensive. And, like,
it's really expensive, yeah. And I mean, I don't get as many as they do. Like when they get their blankets, their blankets are like $99, and I'm like, you know, for me, it costs a little bit more to get them.
Yeah, to actually make them because you're not making as much volume. Yeah.
Because I'm getting like the smallest order that the place will let me get.
Yeah. So, like, how did you kind of? Because I guess a lot of creatives have an issue with not only like selling their work, but finding these sorts of opportunities. You know what I mean? Because not everyone. Because it's easy enough just to say like, keep grinding and keep making what you make and networking in where you live and like.
Yeah, it's hard.
You know what I mean?
That part's hard.
Yeah, it is. It's like a kind of an endless thing because you never know when, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very rare that artists get these wholesale accounts like you've had.
Totally. There's a few places that I would like love to reach out to like have be in their like store.
Have you ever thought about doing that or?
Yeah, I should do that. Like I've been like pretty lucky in the way that like I've mostly been reached out to. And that's really lucky, but I would like to navigate that a little bit more for like what I want. And I'm not, you know, I need to just come up with the pitch.
Yeah.
You know, and I also need to like, one of the things that I really want to do is like, I want to intentionally create pieces for a line sheet, my wholesale sheet. I want to get that photographed, and I want it to be like a nice thing that you look at that's cohesive and just like, and with the pitch.
Yeah.
Where like, I don't know, maybe you like send them a little Prezi. You're like, yo, I vibe with you. I hope you vibe with me.
Yeah.
You can check out what I have to offer here.
Yeah. But
that would be like, tight.
Yeah. As an artist, you don't even put yourself in that tight of a box.
Yeah, and it's hard because it's like I am also a back of house person.
Yeah.
And everything that I've ever done, all my training, and like I've never like been the front of house, and that's a front of house job.
It is. I mean, as someone who does, I mean, you do both jobs now, front of house and back of house jobs.
I actually have.
Like, if you have anyone reaching out to you, that means that like you reaching out to anyone else is gonna work in your favor so many times, you know.
So all of my, if you reach out to me, it goes to Taylor Cawley, my, they're my assistant, and they do like most of front of house stuff. We have like a weekly conversation on the phone or more if we have to, because I'm not good at texting or emailing. I never have been. I probably never will be.
Yeah.
And they make me seem a lot more professional. They're like really good at doing that. It's
important to have those kind of things. Yeah.
Yeah, like if you hit me up, even on the website, it goes directly to them, and they're good. Like I mean, and even when I think about Jarmel by Jarmel, like they're just such a big part of it. Like it feels like more of a community thing, and like I want it to be something that like provides a nice, really tight, safe workplace that's fun and like gives you a comfortable living like that. To be able to have like a community of people that supports would be just so tight. That's one of my big goals. And now I have Johnny who comes in and is more of like back of house assistant. So when I have like big jobs and stuff, I'm like teaching him how to like help me work on the planters and stuff. But it would be really cool for some production if he could just make the planters and I could just glaze them or stuff like that. and we're getting there. And I also encourage him to make his own stuff. Or my friend Rose Labardo comes in and helps with fixing the glazes up and stuff, and then she paints clowns and other stuff on things, and it's really great.
That's awesome. Yeah, you're kind of like putting on people just like you've been put on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really important to continue that process.
Absolutely.
Even though it's like, it is exhausting to do that, because it's like to teach Johnny how to do these things. It's almost easier to just do it on your own and takes less time.
Totally.
But it's like, once he's honed in and able to do that, then it's going to significantly cut down on your time and you'll be freed up to do stuff.
Yeah.
It's all a process and it's all frustrating and
Yeah.
takes long, but it's like, it works out in the end. And
It
as
takes
long as,
but yeah, I think like while I'm, when I'm in the little bubble of it, I am very happy.
Yeah.
And even when I'm like really tired, sometimes I'm like glazing something that just like in the center of my chest, I'm just welling with joy.
Yeah.
And
it's easier to dig deep in those situations and be like, okay, even though I'm fucking exhausted and I don't have all the money in the world and I'm working 80 hours a week, like, at least I'm doing it for me and it's not for someone else.
Totally.
And like, yeah, that's awesome.
Hell yeah.
Do you have any other 2021 things you want to talk about, or just future in general?
So I hope, I'm really hoping that things are better next year.
Safely better, yeah.
And I hope that, because for the first half of the year, I'm going to have my niece and nephew. So I hope to, and the way that it has happened is that I got my niece in this Montessori school.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's so expensive. And it's like, it's even like cheaper compared to some of the other ones, So like, it's kind of been like a little killer. So I really hope that like I'm able to, it's hard to balance work and give them the attention that they need.
Yeah.
So I'm hope that I'm able to do things that like allow me to have financial stability while still giving them the energy that I think that they deserve, that kids just deserve, especially when you come to these families where like kids need to, there's parents that like need to be working and they don't have as much time and energy to like, and that's a shame where like the resources aren't there. I hope that for them that I'm able to balance and manage that. And then really I would like to take off for like a month.
It's a
and
good
just
goal.
Unwind, just go, maybe if it's safe, go see some friends and just do that. I got a few states in the country that I haven't seen yet. I don't count drive-throughs. So you gotta experience the place.
I've never heard that, but that's a good terminology.
There's 6 I haven't been to, and maybe like hitting some of those off the list. And then I'd like to work on an art show. It'd be really tight to have some time just to like work on that, and then at that point, get ready for the holidays.
I love how you're already planning for holidays next year. That's what you do, though, when you do shit like this.
Yeah, totally. Like, I mean, in the back of my mind, I'm like thinking about Valentine's Day.
Yeah, you're forecasting, and it's like,
we got to take that shit back from Hallmark.
Yeah.
and Hershey's.
Well, awesome. I think that should probably wrap it up because we've been talking for way too long.
Yeah.
And didn't cover it.
It did not feel as long as it
didn't.
has
and thank
been.
you so much. We didn't cover nearly enough about your ceramics. I really appreciate us talking about everything else.
Thank you.
And I feel like that's even more important to talk about than our work and like what you do creatively, because that kind of comes second nature at this point.
Right. Totally.
Yeah. But awesome. Thank you again so much,
thanks
Jarmel.
for reaching out. This is tight.
Yeah, you are only the second artist I've interviewed other than yo-yo players. Yeah, so
cool.
Number 2. Thank you again so much.
There's a lot of great artists. I look forward to seeing some
Yeah, I can't wait. I feel like interviewing people like you will definitely help approaching people in the future where it's like, oh, let me come interview you because I've interviewed other people from Philly now that you actually know. That was the goods. Thanks again, guys, for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Check out all of Jarmel's artwork. It's going to be in the description. And I'll cut this video up into a million pieces so you guys get all the gems that she dropped on you. Thanks again. Peace.